Hi, this is Abby Levitt from Skittletopia Block 2, and I guess I'll start with my movie project. I guess I'd like to start by saying the three largest things I learned this year from the Civic Mirror are that society is extremely hard to live in. Government takes work to run, and also people are very driven for many different reasons, and the amount they're driven is the depends on what they're driven by and um, how opinionated they are about their subject. From the Civic Mirror, I've learned that in society, well, what society is really like, it's very people are very self-driven, and people drive themselves for many different reasons, and many different people commit to those beliefs and those drives in many different ways, from being active to just supporting a political candidate. And it's very similar to the way we had to conduct ourselves in the Civic Mirror. From the Civic Mirror, I've realized that my personal strengths are compromising because while in the government, I had to compromise with different officials to ensure what I wanted and possibly what my party wanted went through the Senate. And also helping lead, because leading was a very important part. Being in the Senate, I had to be able to uh, lead myself as well as other people to get things done. And also, I realized the strengths of our class as a whole are compromised because we were able to compromise on things, and also making sure everyone is happy with the decision, because we had to make sure that, well, not make sure, but mainly we spent a lot of time on different bills and such, and by spending a lot of time on those things, we were able to ensure that about 90% of people would be happy with those, and I thought that was very good that we were able to do that. I also found that my personal weaknesses were not being very vocal, because there were many times I could have been more vocal and been able to get a lot more things done when I wasn't. And also, I had trouble developing a firm plan, especially for my hidden agenda or figuring out what I wanted to do in the Civic Mirror to ensure my personal growth as a citizen. And also, the weaknesses of our class was putting what we say we're going to do into legislation, because there was a lot of debate and a lot of irritants with people when we didn't put let's say when we developed Laura's hex into an energy hex. Many people were irritated by that. And from this, I found that a good way to improve in society is to get involved in legislation, because if people aren't able to voice their opinions, then nothing is going to be done, and no one's going to know that people want this to change, want something to change. The Civic Mirror has greatly, I mean greatly changed my outlook on government. I never thought before that government would be so difficult to run. I've mainly experienced what our government does through my parents and grandparents and their opinions on what our government is doing, not necessarily what the government is actually doing and how much they actually do for us. They do a ton for us, and we don't realize as a country just how smoothly they make our country run. And I know that not it's I'm not saying our government is perfect, because no government is, but they do a lot to ensure our safety and our uh, flow of life. From the Civic Mirror, what is really shocked me was that one, how hard government is to run in the first place. Two, also how people can be uncooperative, very uncooperative, just because of their beliefs, and even if they're not willing to compromise, or they take their beliefs so strongly that they aren't willing to compromise, though that didn't come up an extreme a number of times. Also, what shocked me was the difficulty of living in society and surviving and making sure your family and the people you cared about survived. From the civic mirror, I've learned that about law that it is takes a very long time and a lot of debate and compromise to pass a law. Also, that in government that there is so much that goes on and so much that has to happen to make sure the lives of the citizens run smoothly and there's no difficulties or difficulties that harm the citizens at least going on. And also I learned about society that it's hard to live in society. You well, at least it's hard as in the case that you need to support yourself and make sure you can live and not, well, die. This simulation has helped prepared me for reality by showing me that you need to work and be able to work or find an alternative to be able to live, and that being involved in your government is important if you want if you want your opinion to be heard. In this simulation, I found it insanely frustrating that people would develop opinions and uh, push the government to make decisions when they had no idea what we were doing. They had no idea what we had to do to make sure they would be happy. And either way, we're going to get criticized because either they're going to be unhappy with what we decide if we decide it fast, or they're going to be unhappy because it took us so long to decide it. What I found depressing was how easy it was for people to die, because this is supposed to be a mirror of our society, and that shows how easy it is. If you don't have the necessities, you're gonna die. And what I found upsetting was how some people conducted business, and how they would uh, conduct business in a way that excluded some people just because they were one of the either a minority or majority, or they couldn't offer as much as the next guy. Everyone needs things equally, but it is very difficult to give everyone those things, I know, but it doesn't mean you need to flat out reject people and be so cruel as to not help them in any way.